today we are making mermaid skirt using method B. In this method, the flare is created by inserting gusset into the skirt panels. The seam positioning logic is the same as method A, so we can review that in this tutorial, but there is no fixed rule for where the flare or gusset placement must begin, and this is determined entirely by your design. We'll have two versions. An 8-panel mermaid skirt that you can see in the image, and later I show you how to create a 12-panel version with different length and gusset placement. Both designs begin from the basic straight skirt, so I'll include the link to that tutorial in the description below. So let's start and first bring our straight skirt. The first step to adjust the length of the skirt, I'm planning to make it a bit longer like the model. I'm going to add 18 centimeters to the length. I'll do that by offsetting the pattern outline at front and back and adjusting my seam to check the length on avatar. The next step is to find the position of seam lines. As I said, this is like method A. We need to draw vertical lines from end of the darts closer to center back and center front to the hemline. With internal polygon tool we do that. And we need to move the line we drew on the front towards the side. So for that, I first divide the hip line by two equal parts, and then move towards the center front by 2 cm and split my line like so. Now I move my guideline to this new point that I just created. As I said in a previous tutorial, when we do this, our seam panel will be placed in the middle of our thigh and the positioning will be better. Now I divide 3 centimeters above the hip line on this new guideline. The dart end must meet this point. So now I extend this guideline to pattern outline because I want to move my dart legs to this new position. I measure how much is the distance when I'm moving. It is 1.23. So I move the other point or end of the dart leg the same amount to the left. I also move the end point of my dart to the 3 cm above hip line. Now I just need to make sure the dart legs are having same length. One of them is a bit longer, so I'm adjusting the right side leg so that I have similar measurement on both sides of my darts. Okay, now I delete one of my back panels and one of my front panels because we need to do pattern making only on half of our pattern. And the next step is to determine the position of gusset placement. I'm offsetting my hip line 23 centimeters below. As I said, this position depends on your style. In the diagram, it is mentioned 32 centimeters below the hip line, but for my style, I have decided to make it 23. So once I draw this line, I extend and trim to pattern outline, and I measure the length below the hip line, because I need that measurement for creating the gusset. As you see, this is not a round number, it is 46.9, so I'm just adding slightly to my length to make it 47. It's easier to have a round number, and I'm just removing the extra points. Okay, now we can create our gusset based on this measurement. You see, it's a shape like a wedge. One easy way to create this shape is to draw a circle. With the ellipsis tool, we can draw a circle with the radius of 47 centimeters. And now we can cut a wedge of this circle. We need to just determine how much we need at the bottom of this wedge. According to the diagram, it's 8 cm on each side, but again this depends on your style. You can choose other measurement. I want to choose 10 centimeters on each side of my gusset. So I split my line from the bottom by 10 cm, and I draw internal lines from the center of circle to these points, and then I cut these internal line. And now I can cut and throw out the rest of the circle. Now I have half of my gusset. I just double check the length of the gusset is not 47, so I can extend my line slightly to make sure my gusset line is 47 cm. We also need to make sure the corner has 90 degree when we are finishing our gusset. Now I can right click on the center line and unfold the pattern. You see our bottom edge is not smooth. With a smooth curvature tool we can make a better shape, and in the same process we can adjust our corners to have 90 degree on both sides. So this is how we make the gusset for our skirt, and all the gussets will have same shape. So I name this gusset side gusset because the front and back center gusset, they have same shape, but they are only half, and they are cut on the fold of the fabric. As you see in the diagram, they are half because when they are cut, they are put on the fold of the folded edge of the fabric on the center line. So the way I create center front gusset is that I draw a vertical line from top of the gusset, I cut it, remove the other piece, and then right click on the center line and make a symmetrical piece. Unfold with symmetric with sewing. Now I can name this gusset center front or CF gusset. So shape, regarding shape and measurement, they are same. I've just made a symmetrical piece for center front. Okay, now I am ready to trace out the panels. And one good point for tracing is that make sure your internal lines always are extended to pattern outline with adding the point to pattern outline. This helps you with the tracing. So with the trace tool, I trace out my front panel first, and then the side front panel, and I do the same process for the back panels. Then I clean up my internal lines and trim them up to the pattern outline. In this case, when you are trimming your internal line, make sure you are adding point to pattern outline, because later you're gonna need them. Okay, we need to do same adjustment for the center back panel. We bring in center back point at waist half centimeters, and we adjust the sides by taking them out 0.25 on each side. When you are doing that, make sure you are not changing your hip points, otherwise your hip will be tight. The reason I asked you to add point to pattern outline when you are trimming your hip line and guideline for gusset was that when you do that, you have a hip point and it won't move once you are changing waistline or other points in your pattern. Now I'm just smoothing out my seams and making sure they are matching and they have same length. Also make sure you are adding notches on the guideline you had drawn for gusset placement. These notches will help you when you are sewing the gusset and you know when you have to start sewing them or end it. Okay, now that I'm happy with my panels, I can create symmetrical pieces for my skirt panels. I won't do that for gussets. Yes, I just create symmetrical pieces for skirt panels by pressing Ctrl D. And for my waistband, I'm okay with my waistband. It has a closure on center back, which is no issue, so I keep it as is. I start sewing from the center front panel. I sew these upper edges to the waistband, then I unfreeze my pieces and use the superimpose side function. This will help me to put them in the correct position. Because we have a lot of panels, it's always better to freeze the ones that you are not working with so that they stay in the same place. Now I sew the center front from top to the gusset placement which we had a notch for. Then we bring our center front gusset and sew the side length of it to each side of our center front panels. And then again we use the superimpose side function to put it in place and simulate. The next step is to sew the side front panel. I sew it by waist first, and I sew the darts too. Again I sew the side panel to front panel from top to the notch. Then create a symmetrical piece for side front gusset, and when I sew it to the edges of my side front and front panel, automatically the other side will also be sewn because it's a symmetrical piece. Okay, we are done with the front panels and the gusset. I just changed the position of my avatar because the arms are down and won't let me to see clearly. Now for the back, I start with center back panels. I unfreeze them first, then with the arrangement points I put them in the right position. I do that because sometimes on the back panel it's hard to find which side is right side of the fabric and which side is left. Just want to make sure I put them in the right position. The center back line is the line which is more straight, so it's easier for me to see and to put it in the right position. Okay, now that they are in good position, I can start sewing from center back towards the side. I've also removed the overlap part of our waistband. You can add it later if you need, but for now it's easier to see from center back only. One of my seams got a bit long. I'm adjusting that. Okay, with the same way we did for front, we sew the seams on each panels of a skirt together from waist up to the notch. And when we want to sew the gusset, we can create a copy of center front gusset. We just name it center back and we can sew it together with back panels. So as we go ahead, we can create more gusset pieces to have them between all of our panels below the notch. Okay, we have sewn all of our gussets and our skirt is complete. I'm just reviewing the fit and balance of the skirt to make sure everything is okay. I changed the pose. Unfreeze the waistband. When you are sewing your skirt, it's always good to freeze your waistband. It won't move when you do that. Now for adding the fabric, I have chosen a taffeta fabric from Clo Library, which I think it works well with this shape of skirt, and she can wear it with a white top. And for gusset, I thought it would be fun to have different colors of the rainbow for the gussets. Each gusset can be a different color, or you can choose a different pattern or color for all of your gussets in contrast with your skirt panels. Okay, our skirt is complete. I'm just checking the balance of the skirt to make sure hemline is at same level at front and back, and we have same amount of volume on each side of the skirt. And this was the skirt based on the method described in the book. I've also created another version which has a longer length and different gusset placement. The skirt you see in this image is made of 12 panels. The length of it is 104 centimeters, and the guideline for inserting the gusset is 25 centimeters below hip line. For creating these 12 panels so that they are equal in width, I have divided the hip line at front and back to 3 equal parts, and then moved the position of darts to these new points. And in the same way we created the panels and traced out the panels in previous method, I have traced out the patterns and smoothed out the lines. To create more mermaid shape silhouette, I also went inside half centimeters to 0.75 centimeters inside on each panel on the guideline, for the gusset placement, and created the shape so that it is more like a mermaid. I hope you have found this tutorial useful. Thank you for watching this video with me, and see you next Saturday.